Hey, Jay Nicholas here. As I promised, I would come back and show you how to seat hooks on tube flies. Now these aren't tube flies, these are tubes. This is a nanotube with a hook guide attached to it. And the way these work, these little silicone sleeves are very nice. You use a ring eye hook. You use a clinch knot or an improved clinch, and you hold that hook guide and you pull on the leader until the eye of the hook just barely seats in that silicone. And that is how you seat a hook to fish a tube fly tied on a nanotube. Now what if you've got a hook tied on a 40-40 tube? Here's an example here. This is a 40-40 tube that has been, here's an uncut one. Let's say my fly is tied up here and I don't need this hook to be seated way back there. So I cut the back part off here. I'm using a B10S as my hook here. Clinch knot, improved clinch, hold that steady, and pull the eye of that hook right into that tube. And there we have our fly tied on the 40-40 tube with the hook seated. Now what if I'm using a classic tube? Here's a nice sparkly classic tube. And let's say I've got a hook tied on it. There's two ways of doing this. One, I can pull the hook eye just like with the 40-40. I can pull this hook eye. If the hook eye isn't too big, I can pull the hook eye right into that classic tube and have it seated that way. Let's say I want my hook trailing. Let's say I have a fly that is like this, where I have a long fibers undulating in the current, and I want the hook back towards the back end. What I've done here is I have an up eye hook on a loop secured with a double surgeon knot, and I hold this classic tube and I have this double surgeon knot long enough. If I pull the knot, not the hook eye, but the knot into that tube, it will hold steady. Now this mono is pretty slender. If I was using 12-pound ultra green, the knot would be a bit thicker. But consider this, you'd have your hook right at the back there, right where you want it to be at the back end of your ostrich. So those are the three ways of securing a hook. You're either pulling the hook eye into the tube or a knot into the tube. I hope that's helpful. The next thing we're going to do is show you, in a separate video, show you some of the favorite hooks we use for fishing these tube flies.